So yeah, let's get straight into it. First thing you want to do is head to your controls. Copy every single one of these controls unless you've got something that you prefer to use otherwise. If you're flying on the default controls though, I would highly advise you change them because oh my god are the default controls for Battlefield 6 horrible. Another thing you want to do while you're in here is go to your infantry control settings and scroll all the way down until you see the interact button, and you want to make sure that that's set to hold. And the reason we do this is so that you can re-enter the vehicle just by holding the button instead of having to spam it. This means you're less likely to make an error or just not get back in at all when you're trying to re-enter the jet. The next thing you want to do is you want to go to Portal and put in the experience code on screen. And if you've seen my previous video, then you'll know that this is essentially just a training ground to practice your rendezooking. So let's get into method 1, and this is the method that you've seen in the trailers, you've seen online, and you've seen in previous Battlefield games. And essentially all you do is you just go straight to the skybox, you pray to God the enemy follows you, and when you're at the skybox, when you feel the jet start to stall and it gets at its slowest point, you just eject. And then you pray that you hit the shot. Now I don't know why they changed this, I really don't. The old way was more consistent. If you learned it, it was an actual skill. Getting back into the jet, that was something you could do consistently if you learned. Here it feels more like RNG. Another problem with this is if you try and do this in a real game, this will happen to you 99% of the time. What? Oh, he's going for the Rendezook. No, sorry. Now moving on, this is the second method, and in my opinion this method is 1, more consistent to do, and 2, it just looks cooler in my opinion. Okay, so let's go through what I just did there. So the first thing you want to do is, when you're executing this maneuver, make sure you're going upwards, and ideally you want to make sure you are 90 degrees upwards, but honestly it's really lenient this, and it's more about the next step that actually matters. So once you're happy with your positioning, you want to hold the afterburner button, hold the brake button, and then pitch straight down. Now if you're using my controls, you can just look at the overlay on screen and you'll see what buttons I'm pressing, and all you need to do is just match up with what you press. If you're on any different other layout, or if you're playing on controller, then obviously you're going to have to take the extra minute or two to just figure out what button actually does what. And if you've done everything correctly, your final result should look like this. Now when you're pitching down, you want to stop just when it looks like the plane's level, and that should allow you to be surfing the jet. So to summarize, your jet needs to go from this to this. And honestly, to do this, it's not that strict, and you can get away with a lot of error here. Like you can see in this original clip here, I didn't really get my jet that flat, and I ejected, and see, I almost fell off the jet when I ejected, but it still worked. And that's what the point is here, is you can make mistakes with this and still get it off. Now for the next part, aiming. Now in any mode where you've got bots, I'm not gonna lie, they are absolutely horrible. They barely chase you most of the time. So if you're practicing this, I highly advise you practice this with a friend. It will just make setting it up so much more easier. And when you're actually aiming, I recommend 1, recording your footage, and then 2, reviewing that and slowing it down just to see how much you need to actually lead with the RPG, because it's hard to demonstrate and it's hard to explain with just my voice. But to put it simply, the RPG is not designed right properly. The sight, it doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna lie, the sight does not make proper sense in a Rendezook terms. In normal term, anti-tank term, I understand it completely. But when you're trying to hit a Rendezook with it, it feels really weird. So I would highly advise just slowing down your footage, reviewing it, just analyzing it properly, seeing, you know, okay, that shot missed, and then building upon that. And in theory, with enough practice, you should be able to hit any jet consistently. And now it's time to go over some final notes and to just conclude the video. First off, the only way to get the Rendezook dog tag is method 1. Method 2, if you try this in a real game and you hit 1, it will not give you the dog tag, no matter what. And it's because my current working theory is if you walk on the jet, the game counts you as walking on the ground, and thus it doesn't think you've actually hit a Rendezook. So if you're here to try and, you know, you're a completionist, you're trying to get the Rendezook dog tag, method 2 won't work, and don't waste your time trying to do it. Another thing with both methods really is if you try and do this in a real game, I'm not gonna lie, the way the game's set up, it will not go down well. It is mostly RNG whether or not it hits, because one, you need an enemy pilot that is smart enough to chase you all the way up to the skybox without losing interest, without getting distracted by a random butterfly. But then two, you need them to be shit enough for them to not be able to beam you down in 0.1 nanoseconds because of how fast the time to kill is for air vehicles in this game. Right, and it's even harder now because to go to the skybox, you are making yourself the easiest target possible, like the easiest target possible. And like, okay, yeah, they might use the lock guided missiles, right? But the problem with that is the flares last about 0.1 picoseconds, so that's not going to help either. So you don't get really any sort of time window at all to actually eject and get back in without them killing you. So it's even harder than it ever has been in Battlefield 6. And I'm not gonna lie, it is 100% luck based, right? Aside from the fact that you've got to hit the shot and so on, getting them just to get them to chase you, just to get that position set up so that you can try the Rendezook, that is 100% RNG, and I don't like that at all. And it's even worse than it used to be on launch, because at least on launch, the method for ejecting and getting back into the jet used to be different, and it was more skill based. That doesn't exist anymore, it's completely RNG now.